Hey, muy buenos dias, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, prayers, time, and as always, the love you guys share and extend to me. I know I must sound like a broken record, but you guys know I'm not too good with words, but I do want to make it clear. I'm real humble and appreciated to everyone. Also, do please like, share, and do all them things to help the message, right? Of course, if it's to your liking, gracias. Well, I'll get right into it. On this one, I want to touch on what I've been asked quite a few right recently, which is, what is one of the big difference between state and federal factions, right? When it comes to beliefs or program, right? And as you guys know, I won't speak about it unless I could touch on it on a personal note, right? But today I want to talk about the homies from forward locals or something to that aspect, right? Nevertheless, they're from Northside San Diego, I believe, right? That's where their neighborhood is. And you know, the first difference I want to touch on the most, right, is when it comes to Califas, the facts are the state are gonna have more gente, more people means more power, right? And mainly because they have people going in and out a lot more on parole violations, on just small things. They go down a lot more to the county jails, so they could reach barrios on the streets, right? And be more in tune, right? Because if you guys don't haven't noticed, there ain't no more headquarters when it comes to state, right? It used to be shoes, and you guys know the order went right, which was Tehachapi, Corcoran, and Pelican Bay were headquarters, right, in that order. But you still have them places like Palm Hall. Oh, I'm not gonna make it long now. You guys get it right. But you guys know all that changed, right? Now the Bealeys are out in the state as they've been in the feds. More so now, right? Because there's headquarters in the feds per se, right? But anyways, on this one I want to talk about Rudy. Mainly it's gonna circle around the Pili, right? From Escondido Diablos and his reach, you know, again, and I'm not minimizing the power of a Pili in the state, because when push comes to shove, they have power, right? In their respectful angles, but again, it's just no comparison, right? For example, well, Billy's from SD that had that reach, right? As Billy's are in the feds, the Ayalas, um, Weddle Sherm, that I could remember, at least in that extent of power, right? They were everywhere. But the first difference is in the state we outnumber everyone, and it's not to say we're this, and that, right? It's just there's more Sureño neighborhoods. There's more Sureños in prison, and when numbers come to talk about on the yard, it's just facts, right? And I'm not gonna say they're all ready to suit and boot, right? There's a lot of weenies, and in reality, they try to stay in the shadows, right? Again, I don't believe in that narrative that different people put out that racists are scared of another race. It's just not. It's not true, right? But nevertheless, when you hit the feds, right? At least when I hit the feds, we're not that no more, right? To be sincere, it varies on every yard. For example, one yard, there's factions from Texas, Arizona that are with us, you know, gabachos, brothers that we're cool with. And we're right there, not equal, but, pretty close to the sense that we pick up equalizers and we could hold our ground, right? Then you hit joints where we're completely like down to dirt, right? When it comes to numbers. So, and wars go up. For example, with brothers from different faction, even Latinos from different states, right? And facts are that paisas hold a big weight when it comes to federal, right? And again, I'm not minimizing the state, but they ride with us, but not to that extent, right? Their weight ain't as heavy as it is in the feds, per se, like that, right? More so because the paisas in the feds, there's a lot of fools that are connected straight to a faction in Mexico that makes feria, that makes moves, and that brings a Pili's reach to a whole new level, right? And that's something that they're not gonna reach in the state, cause mainly a paisa with that type of jugo, right? He's gonna more than likely get told in Mexico, get picked up in Mexico, and get transferred to a federal prison. So the Pilis, it's kind of like what the homies have in the state right now, right? Which is, it should be a blessing, right? That even from the smallest individual, wiggle wise, has the opportunity to walk amongst a yard from a Pili. And if he has something important, he'll be heard on the spot. Which in my days, we didn't have that, right? And again, I could speak about my days. But that's exactly what the Pilis have in the feds, right? They have these big individuals the whole weight, walking with them on the yard, to the point where you don't hear what you hear in the state. You know, well, I'll just put it like this, right? I never had no dealings with the Ayalas, because I know everyone knows what they move, right? Or what they were doing. I'm gonna speak about their current whatever round, right? But the Pili that I personally knew that had moved the most, I mean, weekly, was the Pili and Sam status, right? And it was 80, 80 bricks weekly he was moving. And the feds, you got Pilis that they're in different states, different counties. Of course, they're making the feria and they're allowing state police to run all their arrests, right? You see a lot of police in the feds are kind of smarter than, like at the last episode I talked, Cisco and Perico, they went off wanting to claim neighborhoods, which it's rare when a feds pili rather just move weight, make feria, right? Of course, be respected in whatever, wherever, but street wars bring problems. Federico wise, you guys, nevertheless, you're talking about pilis moving 400 of them ladrillos, every 15, every month. Again, there is just no, you know, and it's because they could tap in. Allow me to take you back to, it had to be around 2001, I believe. We were busted in Jalisco, as I mentioned before, right? And in Jalisco, well, I want to touch on it, right? But me and a homie from Compton, right? A little wicked, which I will touch on again. We uh we got sent on a mission, but it wasn't like when you're in state, right? Which is you're gonna go on a mission and you worry about the tower, you worry about the Judas. They don't exist. But this individual was part of the cartel out there, right? So we're doing a favor to the homie Casparin and Bullet, right? And they had a big faction out there. They still do, right? And I'm not gonna pinpoint towns, but they're out there in Valles, right? In that area of Jalisco. And they're the pioneros. But the main individual receiving for whatever they're doing out here, feria wise, material wise, Crazy runs everything. To what extent and what they're doing, that's not important. But you guys get it, right? Anyways, there was an individual, not gonna minimize by putting out his name, but he was part of the heads per se, right? On the yarda. And basically it was a political move, right? They wanted him God, period. And you guys know I was a crash test dummy, right? Which I felt, vámonos. There should never be no hesitation if you got that soldado in you, right? Wherever you are, period. But we knew what we were getting into. Dude walked around with at least 12 people protecting them, and it was just gonna be 2 people. Get to the point, hit and boogie, right? So me and the little homie Wicked, we basically took on that mission, you could say, to open a door with the homie Casparin Casper, right? Mainly because he's the main dude, right? Again, right underneath Crazy out here, right? And they answer up to the big man, as you guys know who, but at the end of the day, they run their show. And the whole crew's camaradas, they all answer to Crazy. They have a lot of favors, per say the least, in the point of prices, locations. You get good with Crazy, and you were able to plug him in with another Billy down here, and hey, for example, right, I'm just speaking out my neck, but hey, I need 50 of them up there in Wisconsin, per se. I got you. and it will get done. Point blank. Just give me 2, 3 days like that, because they had actions like that, right? You guys get it? And anyways, back to what I was talking about, right? We went down and again, it was a suicide mission, point blank, right? We knew our time was limited, and we knew even if we turned around with the pedazos and start swinging at people, we're gonna get stomped in. No buts or ifs, right? And the question was, what should be always the question, right? If you're a smart individual, are the homies? You see, there was a Billy there with us. You know, he's not really out there like that, but he's part of the Mexican faction, right? I'll just say P from SGV, right? And he was there with us, so he needed something because he was out there in Jalisco, right? He wanted that connection with Sapo and Rudy, and he's the one that coordinated everything. Again, I was just a soldado, right? My goal was to open them doors for the Ramfla per se, right? Which meant the Pilis, right? And no questions, no ambition to gain anything from it, just simply what I did since I was a kid, right? Which is keep my name in good, because that's all we think about, right? That's what's important. Of course, we always minimize, but anyways, we went and there's a part where they make belts of Shakira, and he was there with his little crew, and it like fell in the lap, right, of me and the homie. We just happened to stay. We were standing there, and we had days planning it. It was just no openings, right? So when we're looking at the bells, homeboy comes in and looks at him, and his little crew stays behind. And of course, I look at the homie, and it's boogie time. I turn around, and I don't touch on it, but I hit him once in the neck, and I grabbed on for his shirt, trying to wrap my hand around his shirt so he wouldn't drop and just get going to town, right? The homie as well, and I don't know how long it passed till we started getting stomped in, right? Even when we tried to get up, well, you guys get it, right? You guys know how the penales or the jails down here, what they hold, what they carry, so you guys can imagine, right? I'll tell you like this. Me and the homie, probably, I don't know, a good 20 something days we were in a bed, but we were waiting for them to come in from the streets all the way into the infirmary, the hospital, and take us out. It was part of the mission. Again, it was a suicide mission, and we understood it. Of course, we had to follow blindly what the Pili said. Everything was in order, right? But we were expecting the worst, which were lies just to gain and throw us under the bus. But I guess the homie crazy had it like that, right? Because it never happened. As a matter of fact, the Pili P came in and he told us, todo bien, get your strength. And about the first week we were there, couple beds down, Casperin came in, right? Casper, from Fort Worth, local. He was from North San Diego, right out there somewhere. He had got him busted, I guess, with crazy back in 2012 or somewhere in them years, right? That's why they were close. He just happened to come down to Mexico, and he had a relative that had a relative, and you guys know how it works down here, right? to get in the way he did. Cause that's the only way camaradas down here, through family is the only way they open doors, and it depends what faction we're speaking on, right? Nevertheless, he built it with the homie Bullet, but in a mission in a little town, right? He got shot up. The homie has shot up, and with cuernos, with AKs, and they shatter his whole back. The homie was lucky he was still alive, but he will never walk again. And I don't say that to homo has juice. I'll just leave it like that, right? Like nice juice. And he's loyal though, right? He's everything he does is for Rudy's gang and name. And believe me, he holds it in honor down here. And anyways, that's how we started talking. We started talking about he has different faction, and we are what we are, right? I tell you guys, when I tell you we're torpedoes, it's what we are, period, down here, right? And they do the same thing in Jalisco, right? They go out. Well, not him no more, right? But there's a couple crews, Los Diablos, Los Cholos, gangsters, the Sicarios. Nothing but homies that go and hit, open cancha, and then, and they're well respected. I'll just leave it at that, right? And, not to minimize the homie because he's on a permanent wheelchair right now. Because, again, my respects, right? It's a good homie. And it's how I found out that, basically all the credit goes to Rudy. So, again, you guys see the difference? When are you gonna hear that a state Billy has that reach? For one, the homies down here running everything under his name. Two, Rudy, I'm not sure if he was or is in a spot where he's next to a real heavyweight when it comes to Jalisco. That they're friends, and he has that, you know, avenue, pipeline directly of respect without even having to step a foot over here. But since he's there and he's shielding them in some way or another, because again, everywhere we go, we recognize as soldados, torpedoes, and it is what we are, right? Not just us, norteños, even bulldogs in the feds. There is them paisanos that want to wiggle in the spots where they could, to some sense, bring security, right? And in the state, you're just not going to see that. Of course, again, neighborhoods, jails, things like that, they're always going to have front line, but wiggle room is just different. From the minute you go into a federal yard, we're used to seeing 4 factions, right, on the yard, per se the least, right? Paisas, they're mostly with us, norteños, brothers, and wood, others, but that's it. You go into a federal yard and you have árabes, you have from every angle, right, that they run their own. They have their way of politicking. So just off the gate, the behavior and rules and regulations, they're different. And you know, I talk about Casparin because you guys know recently I was out there and it's a good homie. It's a good homie and now that he's sitting down and not having to do the wiggling, there's just certain things that again it's happening in Mexico. So Rudy's directing for camaradas to do that if vatos over there in state will find out, at least camaradas, first and foremost, they wouldn't believe it, right? Because I know what people must think of me or others, right? And it's okay, right? Everybody's entitled to, you know, but take it from an individual at least. In my sense, I'm not gonna say I had the pleasure, but the time I did, and I had that, you could say, touch with certain individuals, it wouldn't have been okay. For less, I seen people get their jugglers cut, and the homies having a problem with it. But again, he has all the weight, right? Literally, just cause Crazy's sitting up there and next to this individual, but at the end of the day, we're just taught to follow what we're ingraded to follow, which is stay loyal to these individuals. But you see, recently Bullet from Casper's neighborhood that was supporting for a long time just recently got, well, I'll just put it like this, right? He was going through a town. He got chased by Marines. They don't play no games, right? He had to get rid of some things and really didn't like it and had him dealt with, period, point blank. The homie Casper didn't like that. Cause it's like saying I'd rather you get busted and you being obligated to pay for it than losing material. You see, the homie could have gotten busted and still paid for it, but he had to prove a point. And the Billy's point is by stomping on camaradas, by removing them, making a point of power. So I leave this with a question. If you haven't been there, are you willing to go into a guessing game till the day comes where you get sent on that mission? You pull the mission, but it's not to their liking. You go out to visit. You're obligated to do something for them and visit. You get a packet. They might want that your family out of heart send you, but they want it. You argue about it, you're gonna get whacked. Are you really willing to give your life for that? Or rather do your thing, and if you make it without having to, you know, report, and if you do have to go report. Boogie, I always say it, right? Once you're there, you go weenie, you're a weenie, period. But if not, be smart. Stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones.